It is by will alone I set my mind in motion. It is by the juice of the safu the thoughts acquire speed, the lips acquire stain, the stain becomes a warning. It is by will alone I set my mind in motion. Hey guys, what's happening? Sorry for the whacked out Friday night. It is what it is. Mrs. TheDungeonDelver, not feeling good. Just didn't really have it in me to come in studio and try and run a game and interact with you guys for 3-4 hours, and it was just not going to work tonight. She has an upper respiratory infection that is this close to pneumonia and has torn muscles in her back and side from coughing. So yeah, I kind of got to keep my ears on. Like, I may end up like jumping up and running out of the room, for a few minutes. But anyway, that's it. LRPG, I just said. So yeah, I'm just, I've got like Google Messenger open, and my oldest daughter's in the living room, and my wife's in the back bedroom. So if something comes up, like I said, if I jump up and run out, that's it. I don't mean that's it, like that's the end of everything. Just you're going to be staring at an empty office. I don't know what you guys will do, but there we are. But anyway, I hope she gets to feeling better too, Road March, because the next step is, a trip over to the hospital. So, but anyway, that hasn't happened yet, and I'm just hanging out. It tends to distract, this kind of thing. So, yeah, I didn't set up the periphery lights and everything. We've had a pretty good week so far for the show. Actually, we had we had Kyle on Tuesday. We had a great AD&D game. Kyle on Wednesday, a great AD&D game on Tuesday. Bill T from Paint Minis was here last night, and I want to thank you guys who have subscribed to Paint Minis live on YouTube. And if you haven't, please go do that right now. Just pop open another browser tab, or if you're on mobile and I see like, oh, lost a viewer, I'll understand. But I really do want you to subscribe to Paint Minis live, subscribe to Dungeon Minister's channel. Hello, Dungeon Minister, RPG Grandma, and my buddy, Vile Necromancer. I know it's been months and months since he's done a video. He's been going through some crises, and I think seeing his sub count maybe double or triple, over the course of the next few months would be a good thing for him. Let's get him to where he can monetize. Thank you, LHRPG. I sincerely thank you for that super. I hope the best for her too. I genuinely appreciate that. You can zip back a few minutes, Dungeon Minister, or I can tell you, but long story short, upper respiratory infection to pneumonia, probably, and torn muscles in her sides and back because of coughing. But I'll put that back. Anyway, again, LHRPG, I appreciate the super. That's awesome. And I guess, I got to do the thing. I got to rattle the tin can. There is something I want to mention that's show oriented. I really, because I think this is incredibly cool. It rolled over. Unless that hasn't updated yet. Let's see. Yeah, guys, we're at 4,790 subscribers. We have jumped up 50 subscribers in the last week, which is simply amazing. Thank you all so very, very much. If you're a new subscriber here, generally speaking, 2 nights a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, I run classic role-playing games, classic TSR role-playing games. First edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is on Tuesday, and tonight is Sci-Fi Friday, where we've been running a months-long Gamma World campaign. I might change it. We might switch to a different system. We might do something differently. No, I knew what you meant, Dungeon Minister. But so that's just some of the stuff we do. We have guests on the show. I've had Heidi Gygax and Eric Garland been on the show a lot, and I don't want to spoil it, but they might be back on again soon. Paul Stormberg comes on the show on a regular basis. If you don't know who Paul is, get in. Get in is what I have to say about Paul, because Paul is one of those knowledgeable people about TSR and Dungeons and Dragons history you could ever hope to meet. And he's a really awesome person. Alan Hammock, TSR luminary, Alan Hammock, Tracy Lesh, the designer of the Mind Flayer, Squid Faced. Yeah, Tracy created that. We've had Errol Otis, we've had Diesel LaForce, Darlene, Steve Marsh, so many greats from TSR, and they a lot of these guys still make RPG products. Just because you don't have a local toy store you can go down to and pick up a new module, they'll come on and they'll talk about their stuff, and it's really it's good. It's good stuff. It's good classic RPG stuff. That's the kind of thing we do here. And if you want to support the show in a material fashion, you can support us on Patreon or with a YouTube subscription for as little as $1 or $2 a month, respectively. At the $10 level, whether you are on Patreon or YouTube, every month, starting at the end of this month, next week, I will have a handy miniature short form fully playable first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons module written up PDF for you guys to download, and you can use it in your campaigns. Kyle's taken on the writing duties for next month. I've seen it. It's awesome. You want it. But the best thing you can do for the show, if you haven't already, is please to click the bell icon or click the subscribe button and then the bell icon for notifications. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down, but leave a comment down below and tell me what you like or you don't like about the video. I get people who come in at me, like when I do the little interstitial news videos through the week, because it seems like WotC does something stupid every month, like clockwork. They say or do something terrible, and it goes out on social media, and I make a video or 5 about it, and I get people who come in, hello, Miss Bella Games. Good to see you, my dear. Thank you, Fuchsia. Thank you very much. Shout out to California. But Michael Connor, unbreaded. Did you sneak in there? You did. So, yeah, you can support the show in a lot of different ways if you want to. If you want to, and I hope you'll want to. I happen to be of the opinion that I do a pretty good thing. I'm at a point in my life where I only do a couple of things well anymore. Like I don't do enterprise level IT. I can still build a computer, but good God, have I gotten generation gapped on what's out there. I can write white papers about it, but AI is going to take that job from me sooner than later. And I play a pretty mean game of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And because I have some webcasting gear, well, this is it. So this is what I do. Thank you, Jorge. We're keeping an eye on it. Hey, Naughty, I'm so sorry. My wife is ill, and I spent a good chunk of the evening tending to her. I'm so very sorry that we're not Gamma Worlding tonight. I apologize, and I'm sorry you had a crap day and you were looking forward to it. I really am. We'll bring it next week. We will bring it next week. We're coming to a point, you know. We're coming to a point. Some things I've put together out there. I've put together some. I know the Gamma World game, the Gamma World live stream seems a lot like, oh, wacky thing, oh, ruined thing, oh, he's describing a car, but he can't say it's a car because they're ancient tribesmen, and you know. But there's some stuff going on behind the back curtain that you guys don't see. That's developing. Anyway, let me see here. Fuchsia says, Bill, I'm a daily therapist for people. The streams are generally devoid of politics and everyone is here for a good time. Well, I try to, Fuchsia. I try to. So someone was asking about what subscription tier do we need to get a one-on-one Q&A character creation with you? I'll add that as like a subscription tier, like a $25 subscription tier. I'm deadly serious. Like a one-on-one QA video with me. I'll do it. If you guys want that, I'll set it up. Hey, Lightmane, thank you very much. So I've seen you guys on socials, on the YouTube discussion page. Some people have DM'd me on Twitter and so on. And your outpouring of support for Colleen is greatly appreciated. Hey, John Scott. My webcast is one of the best 1E AD&D ones, if not the best. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So, yeah, what I would do basically is I would add, I think, you know, I gotta be honest with you. I gotta be on point. If you're going to want to like call me and get an hour out of me on a private video call, where, you know, I look over your D&D character and give you Q&A stuff for a little while, I kind of got to make it worth my time. So I don't know that I would do it at like maybe the $30 level, 25, something in between. I don't think I'd get a bunch of hits from that, but I might do it. I'm sorry, Michael. X. No, Twitter is classic. TTRPG Twitter is actually fun. We have silly little slap fights about like, are you not using one-to-one time? That's what Gary intended. No, he didn't. He said this over here. they're silly fights, but they're not like the I'll destroy you, I'll find out where you live, you'll never work again, I unearthed this tweet from 2011, it's not like that. And there are genuinely nice people. There's this wonderful lady. I wanted her to get her back on the show back in February, and I'm still gonna reach out to her. Laura M. Daniel is her name. Madame DM. She's a voice actress, and she is one of the nicest people. Like, you wouldn't think you'd meet a genuinely sweet, 100% positive person on Twitter. I would love to have her on the show. Fuchsia, I would pay you at that subscriber level, because that would be to your financial detriment to take any advice from me. You know, I hear Disney stock is hot. You should probably sink some money into that. Oops. There's this fabulous energy company you might have heard of called Enron. I think they're going nowhere but up. You know. Dungeon Delver's weekly ASMR. Now I'm going to stir a pot of paint over here by your left ear. Now I'm moving around to your right. Let me clean these bristles in some distilled water. Nice and clean. Yeah, one of you people out there right now. Statistically there's 22 of you. Statistically speaking, one of you right now is having a moment because I did that. And it's not Michael Connor. It's not Michael Connor. There's 21 of you now. Well, I guess we know who the 22nd was. Yes, those. I left the paint on that brush way too long. Oh, Kennick, I've got a question for you. So you were talking about Call of Cthulhu COC the other night. Do you prefer shorter, less difficult COC campaigns? Just put it in the chat. Just answer me in the chat. Jorge, I'm sorry. There's only one way to get Alex Jones out here. You guys know what it is. It's Alex doesn't work for free. Oh my God. I literally like 4 people dropped off the chat after I did that ASMR thing. I don't know what the letters ASMR stand for. It's just audio sensory mumble rumble. I don't know. So I've been thinking about this. I know, Jorge, I know. Well, just in general, Kanek, can you say in general, briefer, less difficult Call of Cthulhu campaigns, or more involved Call of Cthulhu campaigns that are a greater number of sessions broadly? So I was thinking I've been kicking this idea around, and I've come to a decision, and I hope this doesn't upset people, because I know some people are like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I want to answer that. I'm going to answer that. First of all, somebody's messaged me, and I don't have Discord open over here. Hang on a second. a snack and we'll hop in 15. Okay. Sorry about that. I had to look at a message. Don from Hello Bard Games is going to be on in a little bit. But anyway, so the decision that I made is I am going to start doing a 3D printing channel. And it is going to be a separate channel, and I hope that doesn't piss people. I know some people were like, "No, do 3D printing videos just here." And I'm like, "No, I think I'm going to separate it out. They're going to be closely tied together." Almost bought that shirt that I'm wearing. Well, I didn't have it up for sale. I don't know who was talking to you about it. I don't know what kind of a deal you and that seller are fixing to cut. You have to pry it off my cold, dead, fat body. Okay. Can I explain THAC0 to you? Okay. 2-hit armor class 0. Now, in the context of first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, okay, Kanik, thank you. So you prefer your COC to be longer and harder? I'm just wondering, because you had mentioned how much you like COC and the last night, and I didn't know if you liked shorter COC or longer and more difficult, longer and harder COC. But so yeah, you know, I'd spin it off on a separate thing, Jorge. But to get back to LHRPG's question, the midpoint on a chart for or the lowest point on the armor class chart is 0 in D&D, and so there's a formula: 2-hit armor class 0, and you work backward from it. If you need a 20 to hit armor class 0, then you need a 19 to hit armor class 1. You need an 18 to hit armor class 2. You need a 17 to hit armor class 3, a 16 to hit 4, a 15 to hit 5, a 14 to hit 6, a 13 to hit 7, a 12 to hit 8, an 11 to hit 9, and a 10 to hit AC 10. And that gets better as you level. When I tell people, hey, I'd like you to try out some AD&D, they roll their eyes and go, I can't go back to THAC0. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons does not use THAC0. There is one mention of it in the Dungeon Master's Guide. It is used as a guidepost point in the Monster Index, the recapitulation of monsters in the Dungeon Master's Guide of what their 2-hit armor class 0 is. It was never intended for characters. It was never intended for monsters at large in general. It was just a handy thing for quick reference purposes. And then it got turned into something for all other forms of D&D. And there is this perception that if I say I love and play first edition AD&D, people are like, oh, yeah, no, just count up. THAC0 is too weird. It's this weird fun. I'm like, I don't need a formula of like, just add and then subtract from the armor class. It makes sense. Or, you know, just THAC0, just go. I have a table. I can look at the table in the Dungeon Master's Guide. And it tells me everything that I need right there. Everything is right there on the page. Fago is used for refreshment purposes by people you hate. Someone offers you a Fago, you don't need that person in your life. COC should be borderline creepy. Well, I mean, I guess if that's what you're into. The problem, though, with Thaco, it's my show. I'm going to say it that way if I want. There's an ASMR moment. Thaco. I need like 2 mics to get binaural. Thaco. There is this concept in AD&D called repeating 20s, where stuff is so hard to hit, you need a natural 20 outside of any bonuses to hit it. Like, I got a +2 sword. I'm an elf, so I get +1 with sword, and we have a bless going on. So that's a total of +4. I know I need a 20 to hit this thing, but I rolled a 16. For the first 20, that's awesome. The second 20, that requires a minimum roll of a natural 20. And all other rolls that have a 20 thereafter. Thaco and Formulae don't take that into account. Hey, Wave of Mutilation, thank you very much. 10 Australian dollars. Thank you. No comment, no request with it. Michael Connor wants to know when I last slept. I don't know what that's got to do with the price of tea in China, Michael. I talked to a dear friend on the phone till about 4:00 this morning, and I woke up to my wife screaming in pain because of her racking cough, literally tearing the muscles in her side and back at about 8:30 this morning. So I did get to sleep last night. So dirty cents and real money. Yeah. One guy, I remember, was it in the live chat when we were doing deities and demigods? I think it was in the live chat. So if you grab your Call of Cthulhu rule books, so basically if you want to grab your COC and look through it, Bast is listed as one of the deities, which opens up the interesting prospect of all of the Egyptian gods being out there in the Call of Cthulhu universe. But someone mentions it, and I thought, okay, I've done sweet, light, fluffy AD&D before, okay? I'm not always Fafhrd and Grey Mouse or double-crossing the Assassin's Guild and coming home to find, their girlfriends burned alive. The Call of Cthulhu is not something that lends itself to that at all. Like, at all. But somebody actually introduced something that I thought was, I don't know what that is, Jorge, but that looks awesome. I'm going to put that up on the screen. I mean, I don't know if that's like 30 cents, but my God, at least I can say, anyway, so, this guy was talking about, it was on Twitter. I was going through my PDF of that's fine, brother. It could be 6 cents US and I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much. I was going through Deities and Demigods PDF, posting up art from it on Twitter. And I got to Isis. The illustration of Isis by Jeff D is very pretty. YouTube, I am talking about the Egyptian goddess of fertility and love. Okay? The mother of Thoth, the wife of Ra. Anyway, so, and magic. Thank you, John Scott, and magic. The lack of cuddliness. Oh, Uncle Brat, thank you very much. Thank you so much. But this guy said, somebody responded and said, I had Isis show up in a Call of Cthulhu game. The characters did something that actually triggered her appearance. And I just said, I'm guessing every investigator was prostrate, foreheads on the floor, like absolute, because any deity shows up in a Call of Cthulhu game, Nodens, who is arguably good, causes a sand loss, and he just looks like some homeless bum. Like, he's literally described as like a skinny dude with a ratty beard and long hair. Hey, Aqualung. And so, yeah, they were in this temple, and Isis shows up, and she's just like walking very slowly, speaking very regally at the frail mortals who had desired an audience and now wished to witness her countenance and that sort of thing. And it's like one character could see like her perfect feet as she was walking by, because he kind of looked up, but then immediately stopped, and she had her little speech and left. That's the closest to a sweet moment I think you can ever get in a Call of Cthulhu game. But I'm not doing it justice because it sounded really cool. It sounded really, really super cool. So exactly. Sanity checks all around. I believe he said if the characters had looked, it would have been like D20 sand loss. No, like make a sand check, you lose 1d6 or you lose 20, just because of the awe of this ancient being. It doesn't matter that she's in the form of a good-looking human, right? And she's literally radiating power out. That's gonna mess with your noggin a little bit. But anyway, so yeah, but I mean, as far as cuddliness goes, I mean, I can take or leave cuddliness in a game, but Call of Cthulhu is not the place for it. It's not the place and time. I gotta hang on. I apologize if like suddenly you guys lose me for a second. This PC kind of has weird issues from time to time. You're late, Don. But I did say whenever you wanted to join in. You can imagine her in the speakeasies listening to jazz, ISIS. But anyway, so we're actually not that far away from October. Now, in October, the weekend of the 21st, I will be away on business. I will be in Alabama. I have to be in Tuscaloosa Saturday morning to watch the Alabama Crimson Tide run through Arkansas like shit through a tin horn. And I'm going to thoroughly enjoy myself. So the 4 nights of terror may be amended to 3. We might go over 1 into November. Let me bring up the calendar here. It's probably in the upper 80s right now. It's gotten better. I mean, the feels like a few weeks ago at night was still in the 90s. Like if you decided, hey, I live in a remote area and I'm going to cut my lawn, finally, I'm going to do it because it's not hot, you could drop over from heat stroke at night. But not now. So let's see. August, September, October. Okay. Dang it. I was kind of hoping that if Halloween had been on a Friday night, we could have done like a Sam Hain game, or excuse me, Samhain. That's still weird to me. The holiday I'm talking about, the Samhain. That is just it's spelled Samhain, Sam Hain. I remember when I was working in a record store back in the 90s, somebody was like, we were talking about the Misfits, and somebody's like, well, what do you think of Samhain? And I was like, what? Samhain? I'm sorry, I'm missing you, because I knew, the Misfits and Glenn Danzig's separate work, and he goes over. Coworker of mine goes over to the S section and pulls out the CD tray. Remember those things? And trays, plastic security trays. Pulls one of those out. I was like, "Oh, Sam Hain," and he broke up. He was like, "Dude, it's Samhain," and I'm like, yeah, Samhain spells Samhain. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not real bad right now, temperature-wise here. Although I do hope that the high pressure stays, because if you go to nhc.noaa.gov, NOAA, the North American Oceanographic Association, or National Ocean something. Anyway, they track storms, and it just looks like some kid got loose with the yellow and red crayons between West Africa and the Caribbean. The high pressure we've got sitting over us is basically acting like a cork that's stopping stuff from getting into Florida. And when things cool off and get more comfortable and that goes away, we're going to die. We're going to get hit by hurricanes. So I hope that doesn't happen. Yeah, it's a dead of winter where you're at, Jorge. Although I guess springtime's coming soon. Couple, 3 or 4 months, right? 2 or 3 months, rather. I went to a few concerts when I was getting Pink Floyd. Gosh, I went to a few shows without earplugs, and I think that almost certainly cost me. But there was a juncture at which, like, I saw Metallica twice. I saw Metallica with Guns N' Roses, and then I saw them by themselves on the Black Album tour. And both of those shows, I wore earplugs, all of them. No, I don't think so. If you look at the NOAA map and you see all those colored bands and stuff, you might think, Florida's going to get boned. You have to read the text. You have to hover your mouse over the weather fronts and read the text, because like you might see this huge reverse teardrop shaped thing that looks like it's going to slam into Florida, but like its chances of development over a week are 20% and not favorable beyond that date, because there's a current of air that's going to rip it apart, and that's all it's been since like early mid-August. Has been these fronts develop and then they just kind of peter out, or tropical storms ride the high pressure ridges down, or they get knocked out and they go off and they die in the North Atlantic. But anyway, I don't know why I'm getting congested all of a sudden. So what was I? I was off. I was talking about the 3D printing channel. That's going to kind of be its own thing. And if I will announce it here, I will have links to it here, and I'll have links back to this channel from there. So I hope you guys will come along on that ride. And if I get at least 500 subs, I'll monetize that channel too. Because I was talking to someone the other day, and I said to him, look, if you're thinking about getting into 3D resin printing, don't do it. Little spoiler here. I'll talk about, no, I get boogers all the time. It's literally just boogers. Don't worry about it. Your dollars are called loonies. I remember for a couple of years back in the early 2000s, Canada had a big problem with people spocking the $5 note, because apparently, like if you take a marker and scribble the Spock haircut and put pointy ears on it, whoever you guys have got on your $5 note, it looks like a good cartoony Spock. But anyway, yeah. So the 3D resin printing, don't. It is messy. It is talk. There is no safe 3D resin printing. There is no safe 3D resin printing that you can do. Oh, I'll get water washable resin. It's literally just thinner resin. Slightly different formulation. And now you're stuck with a bucket of water with phenolic resin mixed in with it. I'll wear rubber gloves. I'll wear nitrile gloves. Make sure I wear nitrile gloves, eye protection, a smock, a rebreather. All that stuff's going to have to get replaced or cleaned off. It's not good. It's not good. But anyway, I will. You'll see that on the video. And I mean, after that, if you're still committed to it, if you're like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to, I still want to 3D print. I don't care, then you'll be able to do it. 3D filament printing is fine. The problem is 3D resin printing is fairly turnkey. 3D filament printing, there is no such thing as 3D filament printing. There is a robotics hobby that has a byproduct of 3D printed objects. That's just the truth. A robotics hobby that has a byproduct of 3D printed objects. Like a 3D printer. I've got to get my 3D filament printer working again because there's things I want to print on it. But they can go bad just sitting untouched. I turn off my 3D resin printer, even with resin in the tank, I can leave it sit for up to a year. And that's only because of the resin. And it'll be just hunky-dory. Go out there, stir the resin up thoroughly, turn the printer back on, throw a memory stick in it, print, and it'll do it. Newfoundland, because every country needs an Alabama. Oh, hey, Gumby. But, yeah, a filament printer, the belts will loosen. The filament will absorb moisture from the air. The bed will warp with temperature changes. Bolts will slowly loosen. And I'm talking about it just sitting there not used. Powered off. All by its lonesome. Okay, I'm going to go print this. Crap, that didn't work. All right. And you ask on forums and people are like, did you tighten your belts? Did you level your bed? What kind of bed are you using? Glass? No, don't use glass. You want a magnetic bed. What kind of bed are you using? Magnetic? No, you don't want magnetic. Use glass. Did you use hairspray? No, you have to use Final Net hairspray. You can't use Revlon. No, don't use hairspray. Use glue sticks. No, your prints will never stick with glue sticks. What were you printing with? Oh, you're printing with PETG? You'll never get a good print with PETG. You use PLA. PLA is too rough. You don't want that. Use ABS. Oh, your temps have to be too high at ABS. Do you have a hood? Do you have a hood? What is your ambient temperature around the printer? And it goes on and on and on and on. What firmware are you working? Do you have a 8-bit board or a 32-bit board? What's your steps? Did you adjust your steps? What nozzle size are you using? Whose filament have you got? Oh, no, that's terrible filament. Don't use that. Take care, Dungeon Minister. Thanks for hanging out. This is what I do with a resin printer. That's it. Dump resin in, put memory stick in, press print. I mean, I leveled the print plate on my large format, my 9-inch printer one time. Thank you, Dungeon Minister. Thank you very much. Take care, Jorge. Thanks for hanging out. Hey, there's Don. Let's bring Don on. Don McVitie.
I don't see me on the screen, but hello.
You're there.
All right, cool.
Look,
Very weird. My side is black on my screen.
Huh. That ain't my fault.
So we're good.
Yeah, we can see you. Yeah, the audience says they can see you. But anyway, how are you, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm tired. I'm okay. For those of you who don't know, when you guys hear my spiel and I talk about Hellebard Games being the sponsor of this live stream or this video, that's him over there. That's Mr. Hellebard Games. I'm surprised he doesn't have his waistcoat, his pocket watch, and a big cigar and his bags of money on the desk. I guess he felt that was too ostentatious for tonight.
I've got a Hellebard shirt I can go swap into if you want.
That's fine. That's fine. So wait, there's Hellebard swag. I need some Hellebard swag.
You've got a bottle opener, don't you?
I have the bottle opener. The bottle opener is on the fridge. I used the bottle opener just this morning when I had my morning Coca-Cola.
So there's bottle opener, poster,
mm-hmm.
2 axes because Hellebards.
Yes.
And shirts. That's it.
And shirts. Now, are the shirts formal wear?
They're button collar with a logo above the pocket.
Good. That's excellent. But anyway, now for those of you who don't know this facet, because I think this is a fascinating story. Don, you and I have known each other 20 years now. I think it'll be 20 years this fall.
1864 where the Rebs is marching on Shiloh.
Yes. No, I pulled Don off that Higgins boat on Utah, and we've been
buddies ever since.
We've been buddies ever since. Yeah. But no, it was the weirdest thing. Don actually does professional IT writing, and is by extension why I have done professional IT writing. We both worked for Trollord Games on Yigsburg. The major difference is Don's stuff got published and mine fucking well didn't.
One of mine did, the others didn't.
Okay, fair enough. But he pings me one day on the mailing list because I had been talking about computers and having a background in computers, and he's like, "Hey, I'm coming down to is it DevOps Con or something like that? You were down here for?"
Probably because I was writing for Media Ops, and they're out of somewhere in the Panhandle.
Yeah. So, Don is like, "Hey, let's meet up for lunch." So I went out and we had lunch, and you were big into what the fuck is it? Damn it, Hackmaster. You and your group were all about Hackmaster at the time, and we shot the shit about Hackmaster, and then it's like our conversation just meandered. Wow, I can't believe we're working for Gary. Yeah, we're working for Gary, and what do you think of Hackmaster? Oh, no, it's Mad Magazine AD&D. I don't care for it. And you're like, nah, it's great. And so we just kind of went back and forth, and then like, oh, what do you think about this in IT? Oh, I think that's pretty. And so at the end of the conversation, Don says to me, well, look, I need somebody to write articles for Information Week for me, for my company. And, you definitely seem to have your head screwed on straight. Little did he know. And, you can write and you know IT, and my problem is I have people who know IT but can't write, and I have writers who don't know IT. So you're that Goldilocks kind of guy. Is that something you'd be interested in doing? And I was like, wow, yeah, no, that'd be awesome. So when do we set up an interview? And Don just gives me this look that just said, you ding dong. He's like, that's what this was. That's what this was. A lot less irritated than I'm making it sound, because Don is like one of the most easygoing people in the world.
BSing with somebody and hearing their intelligence come out in the course of a normal conversation, in my opinion, is far better when you're interviewing people with topical knowledge than, putting them in a corner and asking them to straighten their tie and telling them you got 10 minutes to write this code.
Yeah. Yeah. So that thus was the beginning of an awesome friendship and professional. Like I would say, knowing Don, and I guess this is I have 2,500 miles of hose pipe to blow sunshine up Don's ass with this evening, but because you're in northern Wisconsin, no. It is such an awesome, like, the Venn diagram crossover between can be friends with and can be an employee of. You need a microscope to see that crossover. And I have been fortunate enough to know you for 20 years and be given actual work, capital W. Money depends on this. This is people's time. Here is a deadline. Here's a word count. Here's a subject. Here are your resources, capital W work, and still be friends with you. That is so incredibly rare. That's so incredibly rare. Like, it's never been like, okay, I got to take the friend hat off, Bill. And,
Yep.
It's been awesome. So you said, what of yours, I don't want to go into like interview mode because I'm literally just hanging out right now. But
well, Bill, I'm glad you asked that question. No, just kidding.
What of yours? I forget. What of yours got published from the experts?
Okay. So the Gate module made it out not too long before. It only had one print run, and it was some tiny number. I was supposed to get 2 free copies. I ended up having to buy one, but I did get one.
Yeah, so you didn't.
So somebody said Burger's Quarter went out in PDF, but if it did, it was so short I never even saw it.
Yeah, that was. I don't know what got out there.
Well, I got 3 of the ones that made it out. I'm only missing one. You want me to grab them and tell you what made it out?
Yeah, do it. Don talking about he only got, like, he had to buy a print copy, like earlier this year. I finally tracked down on eBay a physical copy of Elemental Moon, the first thing I ever wrote and published for pay. They never sent me a copy. They never paid me. Lance Havermail wrote me a check and sent it to me. Go ahead.
So many people in the industry aren't good about paying, just like so many freelancers aren't good at delivering, right? I mean, that's a problem endemic to the industry, and I think it's because it's a cottage industry. So, Town Hall's sector made it out by Tulanian.
Okay.
And Dark Chateau by Bob Guns.
Okay.
Whoop, there we go. My Moat Gate.
Okay.
And the Eastmark Gazetteer. And this one's got extended maps and such in it.
Yeah. And there was the Hall of Many Pains box set that went out. Upper Works.
Yeah, that might be up here still, actually. And then the core book.
Yeah, the core book. So,
and
anyway.
I think that is all of the ones that made it. There's one I don't have that made it to print. I don't know which one it is. That's CZ9, CZ10, CZ11. Anyway.
Well, I can't. I can't speak to anything. I know a lot of people are very excited about TLG's announcement. I've got a little bit of inside baseball about that. I don't really want to go into right this minute because I don't know how much of it I can talk about. But a couple of people have pinged me and said, "Ooh, does this mean Teeth of the Barkish Nor will get published?" I'm gonna say no.
I was gonna say I'm gonna say absolutely not, even if you think it is.
Yeah, it's not going to get published. Chenault is not going to spend a dime on anything that has to be edited. It's just simply not going to happen. I don't care what anybody tells me, but I will say this: if I wake up one day and somebody says, "Hey, the PDF of Teeth of the Barkish Nor is out there," or like the real thing, like they've done art, they've laid it out and all that, or Rivergate in Newtown, or the slums, or the Farm District, or Citadel's End and Citadel's Garden. Basically, that's all the stuff that I wrote.
I have some of those.
and I don't see money forthcoming immediately. I will find a Chinese businessman who needs a kidney, and I will get me an attorney, and I will. But I'm not worried.
We take a different approach to that. I've got, I don't know, 4 for me and 2 for Lori, or 3 for me and 3 for Lori that never made it to publishing, that are essentially done. 2 of them are half done because they were the ones we were working on when they quit.
Yeah.
And, as long as they credited us, I guess I wouldn't much care. It's not like Gary could afford to pay us a fortune anyway, so we weren't making that much money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, Gary was always up front. Look, you're going to make beer money off of this, like you can buy a pizza. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm pretty sanguine about this. My first paid writing gig was actually not working for you, Don. I had a guy.
What? I wasn't your first?
You were not my first. No, Don, you were not my first. I'm sorry, sweetheart. But anyway, there was a guy who, for like next to nothing, bought the name of the magazine, The Space Gamer and Fantasy Gamer, which was the in-house publication that Steve Jackson Games had in the 70s and 80s. His name was Red Rum. I'm not kidding you. RED space RAHM, Red Rum. And
I had some great conversations.
I bet he did. But I had a website. I would go on Usenet, Dragon's Foot, and I would post stuff on the Delver's Dungeon website. And Red, I don't know how he found me. I honestly don't know how the dude found me. But he reached out to me and said, "Would you write an article, like a couple of articles a month for my website?" He didn't stipulate a length. He didn't, he said, "And look, I can pay you $50 a month for this." I know. He said, "Look, that's an insultingly small amount of money. I get it." But I thought about it. Like, I got this email. I remember my office was in the back of the house at the time, and I was sitting there, baby on lap, and I get this email, and I just felt this surge of happy. The baby had been up all night. I think it was Charlotte. She had been up all night, and just I was miserable, tired. And I see this, and I was just like, oh. And as I've said on the channel before, that tiny amount of money that bought diapers, that bought formula, that put gas in the car, that paid copays to pediatricians, which for those of you who maybe have a little one on the way or you're planning, you're going to go to the pediatrician 6 times a week on a 5-week work day some weeks. I promise you. Just brace yourself for it. But he and I had a very good working relationship, and I did that for about a year. And I never that money. And I told him when we were wrapped up, when he said, the site's just not getting as much traffic. And I was like, look, dude, don't apologize. I'm now a paid author. And I said, you need to understand exactly what your $50 a month bought us. It bought us peace of mind. Red. It bought us peace of mind. The point of what I'm saying is, and Don knows this, but anybody out there, if you're thinking about writing stuff, it's a lot less messy than resin 3D printing. Don't turn your nose up at money. Get paid. But don't turn your nose up at stuff when you're first starting out and say, well, that's not enough.
Yeah, never write for exposure, because exposure doesn't pay the bills. And as long as they can get it free, they're not going to pay anyone. And don't hesitate to take less than you're worth, because that's how people start out. I mean, the site Fiverr exists because that's how people build resumes, so that they can show you what their writing is like.
Yeah. I mean, could I have held out and said, no, you want 2 articles a month for $50? Let's try 2 articles a month for $200, pal. And he would have said thanks, but no, and gone on. Yep. Or, he would have found someone else to do it. But, and I mean, you're absolutely right about don't write for exposure. If I could go back to 2000 and beg myself not to do something, it would be, don't give away those Dungeons and Dragons modules you're going to write for free.
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast is not gonna curb stomp you for putting these PDFs out there. Figure out a way that people can, because in 2000 there was no PayPal.
Yeah.
Right. Figure out a way that people can donate you a little bit of money, but get paid for these things. So
I have copies. I was just looking at this the other night because we were talking about the Eggsberg thing. I have copies of several of these. Do I have them all is the question.
Several of these what?
Modules. DD1, DD2, WGH2, WGH3, WH4, WGH5.
Yep.
Is that all of them?
Yeah. There was never a WGH1. WGH1, I could never settle on what I wanted it to be. At first, I wanted to do something stupid and sappy and fun, like where my first metal draft was, it's like 2nd to 4th level characters, and there is a fair, and there are various things that go on around the fair. And then I realized that basically sounded almost exactly like ST1 Up the Garden Path, which is the worst Dungeons and Dragons module ever made.
There are several that vie for that honor.
It's ST1. ST1 is the Plan 9 of AD&D modules. But then I said, okay, what if we do reverse D&D cartoon, and the conceit is that the party gets teleported to a Renaissance fair, and you use the Gamma World rules where, like, magic doesn't necessarily work. Cleric spells only up to second level, but initially they're like, oh, we're in some kind of traveling village. Why are some of these people dressed so bizarrely? And then I thought, well, maybe I'll save that for another thing. And then I said, hey, Mega Dungeon, Castle Delve. WGH1 is going to be Castle Delve. Writing a Mega Dungeon's hard. Writing a Mega Dungeon is really, really, really hard.
I've got World's Largest Dungeon, and I bought it, way back in the day from my FLGS. And every once in a while, I open it up and go, how did you keep from getting bored to death doing this?
Yeah, exactly. I asked ChatGPT to just on a lark. I said, "Hey, ChatGPT, give me 100 encounter areas of low level D&D monsters." I didn't make it specify 5th edition or AD&D or anything like that. If you tell it AD&D and you don't put your hands on its little shoulders and make sure it walks in exactly the direction you want to go, it will throw 5e stuff into AD&D. But it just started, it got to 66 rooms and froze. And I was like, good enough. Stop generating. And I started looking through, and it just repeated itself. It hit a point where it was repeating itself over and over again. So this whole, I can push a button on ChatGPT and get a dungeon like that. No, you can't. You can feed it a room and have it pad a room for you, but no, people are not writing D&D modules. It's impossible. It's not possible.
Yeah,
to do.
I played with it, and one thing I like it for is quick sudden encounters, like Wandering Monster type.
Yeah.
Where you rolled a Wandering Monster, but you want to do more than Wandering Monster. You want to give the party some adventure, so it's got a lair and all of that right near the trail. That it did pretty well, except for you have to be really careful to make sure it uses stuff from the edition you want.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, an Umber Hulk. Cool. This is awesome. Traits. It has strength of 18. That's a +3. And I'm like, no, don't do that. So quick question. James Seymour said, is it Hella Bard Games or Halberd Games? It is Hella, Helle, Bard, Helle Bard Games.
And there's an E on the end because it's the German for Halberd, rather. Yeah. Sorry.
So it is Halberd Games. Yes, in German. So polish off your high school German, get out, blow the dust off your copy of Guten Tag, and sort it out. And then
did you see the original logo? I don't remember if I shared it with anyone other than the art director, who told me to shut up and quit trying to do logos. But it was my take on a halberd.
Oh, cool. Well, you'll have to send it to me, and I'll make great mock of it. And Road March asks, ST1 it's ST1 up the garden path. The story of it is, it was written by Graham Morris, who did write some good AD&D modules, but back in the 80s, there was a town renewal movement that the conservative government that had been swept in with Thatcher wanted to do. They wanted to make English towns great again. And part of that was, it was like a national gardening initiative, and having fairs, basically sales on the weekend. Farmers come in with honey and apples and that sort of thing, and gardens in the center of town instead of soaking wet concrete roundabouts and that sort of thing. And somebody at TSR reached out to the British government and was like, can we set up a booth at one? And they were like, of course, strange person. And so they wrote a module. They got the map layout of the town's garden center and made a D&D module based on it. And it's as bad as you might think.
So, not too long ago, we ran Gauntlet and Sentinel, which are Graham Morris modules. Mm-hmm. They were okay. I mean, maybe it's because it's 40 years later. They were only okay. They weren't astounding by any stretch.
Yeah. And anyway, they, according to Graham, they sold maybe 30. They printed up 500, and he was under the impression that it was pulped. Now, this is according to a post that I saw from him. You'd have to track this down, or maybe it's just faulty memory on my part, but he said, unfortunately, a box of them survived, and they still pop up on the secondary market. And yeah, if you see a copy, it's going to be $3,000. Look, I'm just going to say this. Don, plug your ears and hum the Battle Hymn of the Republic or something. There are PDFs of it. You can find it, download it, and you'll see how badly it sucks. I know,
Your friendly local publisher would like to flip you the bird.
hey! I'm talking about a 40-year-old pulped module.
That is true. You're not costing them money, which is the key to that, right? Is you can't pay artists and writers, then you can't produce product.
Exactly. I have said time and again, and this even I will straight up, if somebody says, hey, I want to get into AD&D, where can I download PDFs of the books? And it comes up in chat and everything. I'm like, Drive Through RPG or D&D Beyond. They'll even print it out for you. They'll even print you a nice hardback book of it. This is, I hate the company. It belongs to them. Pay for it.
Yep. I'll be honest. I don't know how the crowd feels, but I'll be honest. Putting them into PDF is the best thing they could have done, and I think it's a big mistake for them to try to limit access to fifth ed PDFs.
It really is. I had a guy here, really swell dude. I think you'd like talking to him, Non. Stephen Radney is with a company called Gripner Games, and they've got kind of a cool IT thing that's sort of woven in with their tabletop thing. But Stephen was literally the catalyst behind Wizards freaking out and pulling the PDFs out of production. When when Wizards of the Coast turned everybody into pirates.
Oh yeah.
for almost a decade. And because what had happened was he got a teaching gig teaching game design, tabletop game design, and he printed up materials and bought copies of 4E materials and brought them to the class. And when he's going through and he's talking to the class and he's saying, he's got slides up on the whiteboard and he's talking about stuff, nobody's looking at their books. Everybody's looking at the computer screens in the class. And he's like, is there something on the computer screens I should know about? And they're like, no, we're following the material. And he's like, somebody had uploaded to a Game Master folder that you could get on Wizards of the Coast website, all of the 4E PDFs. And he was working part-time for Wizards at the time. And he goes, hey, did you know that this stuff was up here?
Yeah.
And they're like, what? and then they initiated to start shutting stuff down. And he looked at him and he said, this is stupid. Give old edition PDFs away. Just give them away. You will build goodwill, an unbelievable amount of goodwill. If you do that, just give them away to people. Let them download first edition, second edition, OD&D, basic, and all that. And the response from his higher ups at Wizards of the Coast was, Stephen, you're just not seeing the big picture here.
Well, and in fairness, I'm not sure how that would work. Well, I guess as long as they kept their trademarks and copyrights on it, it would be fine. I was going to say, I'm not sure how it would work in protecting their stuff if people are giving it away, but if they're giving it away and they keep it trademarked, should be fine.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I can walk into 7-Eleven across the street and grab a drink cup and just say, hey, I'm not getting a drink. I'm just taking a cup. And odds are they're going to let me leave with it. That doesn't mean that I can then bring the cup home and flatten it out on my scanner and start using the logos, right? It's still, it still belongs to them, even though I got it for free. So yeah, they still could have maintained control of the IP, but no. To go back to what I was saying, I say pay for it. Don't steal it. The things that I wrote for you, Don, the Temple of the Sun, the things that I've done, content reads on stuff. Yeah, any of you guys who are just like, I'm just going to grab a PDF of Temple of the Sun. That's out there somewhere. I'm sure I'll find it. Don't do that. don't do that. But on the flip side, as I have also said, look, Wizards of the Coast is never going to reprint Warriors of Mars.
There are some games that just shouldn't be reprinted.
Wizards of the Coast is never, ever going to reprint the orange Palace of the Silver Princes.
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast is never going to reprint the execrable, horrible Bio 1, which was not even a complete war game. It was meant to make fast-moving man-to-man combat games horribly slow and unwieldy. If you find a PDF of it, that's fine. That stuff like that, there's no author out there who's missing a car payment because you got a PDF of Forgotten Sojkampf.
Yeah.
The hand stapled copy from Detroit Metro Games in 1976. Now, if Wizards of the Coast does say, wait a minute, we're going to cut a deal with the ERB estate and we're going to sell PDFs of Warriors of Mars, buy it from them. Because
so my youngest son is way into retro video games. I mean, way beyond what you would expect for a 15-year-old. He's got quite the collection, and he's very proud of it, and he should be. But this is one of the things that he's struggling with, because people will tell him it's okay to grab the ROMs. And it is a legal gray area. But my problem with that proposal is that all of these companies are re-releasing on other platforms, in which case it's not a dead game. Yeah. It's not abandonware. It's not a dead game. It's going to come back and you'll have the chance to buy it. So I've been telling him you can't do that, even though it's legally gray.
Yeah. I mean, there's this came. I grabbed these as soon as I saw this. I was so happy when this happened. Do you remember the side-scrolling beat 'em up Dungeons and Dragons games, Shadow over Mystara and Tower of Doom?
Yep.
Yeah. You can buy them on Steam, $14.99 for both of them. And they play on the PC. They come bundled with a self-executing emulator. I think that's a worthy expenditure of $14.
Yeah.
And having spent many years in the wilderness with MAME, I got to tell you, when you see those bundles come up on Good Old Games or Steam or wherever, it's worth spending the money rather than, okay, do I need to do frame skip? Why is the audio stuttering? What do you mean you're missing this ROM?
So my recent purchase in that regard, I think I mentioned it on the Discord, was Civilization 1. Because all of the services have Civ 3 and above. None of them have 1 or 2. So I went on a quest to find Civ 1, because when my oldest son was very young and I wasn't married yet to my wife, I went to her house. She had surgery, and while she was recovering, I went to her house and watched him, and I spent the entire time playing Civ, because he was sleeping because he had to go to school in the morning, and she was sleeping because she was drugged up.
James Seymour has a question for you. Just looked at Hellebarde. Is there really only one AD&D Osric module and it's out of print? I think you might be referring to Temple of the Sun.
I believe SAA2 is also both. I don't have a copy here, but I've got it open. So we have an entire series for 5th Ed, and we have an entire series for C&C. So there are only 1 or 2 for Osric, and they're dual statted. And that's not we hate Osric. That's just a case of that's the way it fell out.
Yeah.
We tried to follow where are the players. And unfortunately, the players were not in Osric. To be honest, our approach with CNC was the players aren't in CNC either, but CNC players are fanatics. They love their game and they want stuff supporting it. So we went there, and that was okay. It wasn't great. If you want me to tell you the truth, you will not find this anywhere online, but that's the original of what is SAA2 on our website, and the original was Second Ed.
Hold it up again, Don. I'm gonna zoom you in there. A little to your right.
There we go.
Wow. Check it out, guys.
So there are only like 5 copies of this out there. They went to people who attended that tourney.
That is super cool.
But I think the published version is CNC dual statted with Osric, but I'm not positive. It might be straight CNC. It's been a couple years.
Yeah, CNC was one of those things that I play tested it, and I was writing, what I was writing was basically had to be CNC. Oh, and there's a little bit of inside baseball for you guys who do play CNC. Had Teeth of the Barkish Nor been released, it would have done for CNC what Teeth of the Barkish Nor would have done for original Dungeons and Dragons had it been released for OD&D. Multi-class. Gary introduced the copy of multi-class character, the concept of multi-class characters in his notes for Teeth of the Barkish Nor. At the time, and I don't know if it does now, Castles and Crusades did not have multi-classing rules. I talked to Gary. I said, hey, can I explain this without using the words Dungeons and Dragons? I know we don't want to, bait them. Can I basically explain that this is, let a character of half-elven, elven, or halfling extraction who wishes to play this ranger or this fighter thief, they function as fighters and thieves. And he was like, absolutely. So if Teeth of the Barkish Nor had gotten published for Castles and Crusades, you could have gone back to Teeth of the Barkish Nor for multi-classing rules. I don't know if they eventually added it in there. I don't. And that brings me back to my original point, which was I really appreciated what they were trying to do at the time because there was no Osric. Nobody was brave enough to attempt that yet. Which was make an AD&D-ish game that was still third ed. And when I was talking to Steve Davis and Steve Chanot about this at Milwaukee Game Fest, I said, well, I'm an AD&D guy, I love AD&D, and it was kind of a wink and a nod. Just flip the armor class back around and you're golden. Yeah, well, what about the primes? Oh, just go back with the prime requisite for the class. Oh, well, what about these? Just use AD&D saves. Well, with 3 tweaks, I'm back playing AD&D, so you've given me no reason to play Castles and Crusades.
So what we do, ability checks sucked in first ed. You can praise first ed all you want, but the ability check system was terrible. It was scattershot. There was no standard. It worked okay when you did the roll under the stat, but then people with 18% you had to make exceptions for. So what we did in our current campaign that starts tomorrow morning is we're running CNC rules with CNC siege system for ability checks and such, and first ed saves for saving throws. And we bounce around. Our last one was straight CNC. Our intermediate, or in the one in between, I don't know which one to call it, interregnum, was fifth ed. We bounce around quite a bit. So this is just trying another thing to see how it works out.
Yeah, and that's cool. I guess I guess with me, it's like, now my name is in Osric. Sphinxes, spiders, and one other, snakes. Sphinxes, spiders, and snakes.
You know, you're about to write a country song, right?
Yeah, it's a fantasy country song. But I don't even play it because I'm like, but I have AD&D. In fact, I'm on record. It drives me up the wall when people are like, "Yeah, AD&D, but Osric is better because it's better written." I just want to. You don't get it. Stop talking. You know, put that Osric down right now. You will speak Gygaxian at this table.
So you want? I'll give you an interesting eyeball into. So the 5 players that were in the last campaign and are moving into this one, I let them decide what the system was and told them I really don't care. You can pick 4th ed with roll master crits. I don't care, whatever you want.
Right.
And took a vote, and after they had weeded down to just a few choices, the vote came up 2 for CNC, 2 for 5th ed, and 1 for 1st ed. And I went, okay, well, this is not decisive enough because we're going to be bringing new people in, and I need to be able to tell them what we're playing before I ask them if they want to join us. So you guys are going to have to, or I'm going to take second choices. So what would be your second choice? And it was really close between CNC and 1st ed if you counted second choices. I'm like, okay, we're doing ranked choice D&D.
Right on. You know, we mentioned this the other night on the stream, and I think it's absolutely true. I think the bones of 5e are good. All right,
there's some great stuff in 5e. They really cleaned some stuff up, and they really mucked some other stuff up.
I have run a 1st edition AD&D Ranger in a 5e game with no changes.
Nice.
It worked.
How do you manage that when they get to, okay, here's attack number 5,372? Because that's my biggest complaint is, oh my goodness, if you're going to have one combat round where everybody's attacking 3 times or 6 times, then why would you bother? Make it 6 rounds.
We didn't play that long. It absolutely might have started to break down if we had played that long. But honestly, just flipping the armor class. And also, I think it's important that I mention this was with a group of friends. This, I didn't just go to a comic store and sit down. A longtime group of friends, and I'm like, I want to see if this will work. And I mean, I kept pace. And the thing about it is all the stuff you can do as a ranger in AD&D, it comes just like that, with the exception of spell casting.
Yep.
The tracking, the extra damage to giant kin, all of that stuff that rangers get comes front loaded. At the end of the day, a 5e character may wind up as or more powerful than the ranger at 10th level, but they get drip fed abilities over the course of their character where you can do that. I'll take a feat or I'll take a stat increase every 2nd level is how it goes in 5e, if I remember correctly.
It depends on the class.
Okay. So
probably with a fighter-based class, every other level after a certain point, like after 7th.
Yeah. So for the period we played, I was the party tank. You know, I was in there starting out with 2d8 plus con bonus hit dice and our 2d8 plus con bonus hit points, and I was I was the tankiest player in the game. I had a high enough strength that I was getting 2 hit and damage bonuses as well. And I really didn't feel like an inferior character in a superior system. It just happened to work. Do I think it would have worked with all classes? Maybe not.
So the way that they did 5th ed was they gave PCs the ability to dole out a ton more damage, and then they multiplied every monster's hit points by a number. I'm not sure what the number is, but it's clear, right? You get ninth level creatures or challenge rating 9 creatures with hundreds of hit points. So they clearly had a multiplier in there. So I'm curious how that worked out with the first ed ranger.
When we did our 5e playtest, the Ranger was not part of this. We were strictly 5e as written doing the playtest because they wanted data. When we did the 5e playtest, the thing that is seared into my memory was a 3-hour fight against 3 gray oozes. They had, and we were like a second or third level party, and they had, we had done like in excess of 130 hit points of damage to each gray ooze for the duration of the fight, and it came down to and I don't know if they took this out of the game or not, but our magic user wizard standing back, shooting it with this ray of fire that they could shoot, like, a 10-foot, basically a laser beam out of their fingers to damage the thing with, and us literally just, it was very video gamey. We circle strafed around the things with him zapping it with ray of fire, never standing still long enough for it to get us. So yeah, I found that very tedious, but the next few times we played, or rather the next few times I played, I think they might have fixed that, but also I think it hockey sticks back up where you get to that point where it's like, an adult red dragon has 285 hit points. What?
Yeah.
And all that. So,
well, so we've done 5 5th ed campaigns. The longest one went to 18th level ish. I mean, that 17 and 19 were the character. I mean, normally I would be like everyone should be the same, but by 18th we had some weird stuff happen where we had a couple characters, not in the mean, but everybody else was 18, I believe. Yeah, 18. It was fun enough. I mean, I enjoyed them, but yeah, I really got to the point where, when you've got fighters doing 6 attacks a round, then why are we having all that in one round? Why not space it out some? But it's part of the design, the overall system design, and there's not much you can do about it, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I mean, you can play. My Ranger experiment aside, you can play a kind of an old school feeling game with 5e. It's just the Dungeon Master has absolutely got to have an iron grip on the game. I mean, I could do it. I could do, if somebody came to me and said, Bill, please run a 5e game for us, I would say, can I sprinkle in a few house rules from AD&D? And if they were game, different XP charts and AD&D style saves.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
See, I don't think I would change the XP charts at all because it works really well. Saves, So saves work for the system. I'm against. I mean, 3rd ed started that, where the save is about you opposed by them rather than about what's attacking you. And I don't like that. I prefer the original 1st ed, what's attacking you is what determines the save. But I get it. I get why they did it. So in C&C, it became a problem at high levels, and this is why we're using 1st ed and C&C. It became a problem at high levels because it was, you needed an 18 for most saves, no matter what, at 1st level. And if the person attacking you, like say a wizard with fireball, if they went up at you always needed an 18. There was no chance to improve, and that broke after a while.
Yeah. No, I can see where you're coming from there. For me, it is a deep philosophical and ontological reason that I want staggered charts, and it is simply this. You served in the Army, right, Don?
Yep.
What was your MOS, sir?
91 Papa.
For those of us who don't have it.
So 91 Papa is X-ray tech. I was also a field medic and eventually an EMT.
Okay. All right. So you humped a med kit and no weapon. Gotcha. So do you think a tank commander would pick up on your skill set at the same rate as you were learning more things about being a medic in a crisis situation?
No, and that's a given, right?
Right.
I get where you're going with this, right? I like the differentiation by class, which isn't there in newer editions, but I also get where they came from, right? So I can understand why they did what they did, and if it's well integrated into the system, I'd rather use theirs than try to hack an outside one in, is all I was saying.
Right, but I don't think it's that hacky. And also this skates more towards the philosophical, for which there is no logical explanation other than old man yells at cloud for me, and that is that I don't okay, so I remember I was coming home from work one day. My wife had gotten home just before me, and she said, oh, I've got the stereo in the living room turned on. They're talking to the guys who are making the new Dungeons and Dragons. This was in 1999, and it was Ryan Dancy. And so I'm like, okay, I want to listen, because I was on the bubble, was I going to go out or maybe it was 98. Anyway, was I going to go out and try and track down a bunch of moldy old AD&D books, or try out the new? And so I'm listening to Dancy pontificate on this, and he said, well, we sent out surveys, and we found out that people want to play for exactly this long, for exactly this many sessions, and that are for exactly this number of months, to be at exactly this level, and we built the game around that desire.
If that is still there, dude.
And to me, that is so looking in the wrong end of the telescope. That is so inorganic. That is a McDonald's hamburger. No, that is a vending machine hamburger in a bus stop compared to something you cook in your backyard, as comparing 5e, 4e, and 3e to AD&D, OD&D, and basic. It just, I'm not here to keep you on a bus schedule. We'll have fun. Maybe you'll be first level for the next 2 weeks. Maybe tonight, you guys just get stupid lucky and off a couple of ogres because you're thinking, and you pull in so much treasure, everybody levels tonight. Like tonight, you go from first to second level. Yep. I think when you have this rail system timetable, this grid of numbers of arrivals and departures for your game, you rob it of any sense of mystery, because it's like, well, it has been 3 months. We should all be 8th level now. And I feel like 5e got away from this, but in 3e, build supremacy was the thing. There was one correct.
Let's face it, there have always been Mechanist crowd, Story crowd, and they've been calling each other names since the white box came out.
Sure. But here's the thing: the white box up there, there's no build in that. There's no build optimization. There's no character optimization. Strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma on 3d6, 1d6 for hit points, 3d6 times 10 for equipment. Find me someone who can min-max that, and I will buy you beers every time we meet from now on. The beer will always be on me. And I like, by the time of late 3.5 edition and Pathfinder, like people who are really invested in it, they get mad at people who do non-optimal builds. It's like, oh, you're playing a sorcerer. Okay, well, do you take this feat, this feat, this feat, this feat, this feat, and this feat, and increase your stats to this? Nah, that's not really fun. I took rogue for a couple levels because, you know, I like the sneaking. And like their eyes bug out of their heads and they froth at the mouth and they start acting the way I do when you suggest I play in Dragonlance or Forgotten Realms, you know? And I just...
Which brings us back to why I originally said we should talk on stream, is because I watched your video about Wizards or about Hasbro and revisiting all those campaign settings, and you warning people they're coming for it. And I'm like, you know what? This is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I'm all for this, because in the late 80s, I was knee deep into Greyhawk and I had a massive campaign going and my characters were just getting to the point where they were starting to mess in world politics, and they put out a new version of Greyhawk and it screwed me. And so I said, all right, well, I'm done with that. I'm going to build my own. And you know what? I got a really rich, really broad world that I built because they kept revisiting the world and wouldn't let it be. So I think it'll be good for the industry.
So you think from a kick the people out of the nest standpoint, you mean?
Yep. To get more people out there thinking on their own, building their own worlds. I mean, there are people who do it, and there have always been people who do it. But if you leave the world alone, people in the world, like they haven't touched Greyhawk in how many years? People running in that world have customized the living crap out of it. And if you start messing with that and tell them, here's a new update, but you can't use this stuff because your borders aren't even the same, people will be pissed and go build their own. And I think that's good.
Well, I think I'm not being a contrarian. I just, from Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms, I agree with you 100%. I think the Greyhawkers flex a little bit more and are like, because it blows when people are like, oh, I love Greyhawk. Oh, cool. Yeah, the Spell Plague, the White Plague, the Carl Sargent stuff, the Greyhawk Wars. And again, my eyes bug out of my head and I start to foam with the mouth. And I'm like, that there is but one Greyhawk and it is written by Saint Gygax. Amen.
I wouldn't even say that. I'd say, and it comes in a folio.
And it comes in a folio, right? No. In the broad sense, I see where you're coming from. My problem, Don, is with they're coming for your campaign sets is that it's like anything else, the mindset is that we're gonna butcher what you loved and make you pay for it, make you pay to watch us do it, and that's how we got that's how we got the Star Wars sequels. That's how we wound up with Marvel going down the tubes, the comics, and now the movies after them, and Star Wars as well. And DC was just like, it doesn't matter. Just hack it into pieces. You morons will watch and play anything. We'll just slap Superman on this. And, Superman's, a 6-headed robot. What are you going to do? We own the name Superman. That's Superman. Now we say that's Superman. Ha ha ha.
I like the 50 million different Spider-Men.
Yeah.
Scenario they set up.
Yeah, the Spider-Verse. I can give them props for Spider-Verse because at least they're saying these all exist. Maybe your Spider-Man is Tobey Maguire. Maybe it's Andrew Garfield. Maybe it's Miles Morales. That Spider-Man. Maybe it's the Spider-Man from the cartoon, the Ralph Bakshi cartoon in the 60s. Maybe it's the Spider-Man from the comic strips in the newspapers, so on and etc. They're saying that they all exist and they're all on essentially the same plateau. That's not what they've done. Like this literally, like if I lived in Renton, I could see myself getting arrested for throwing a brick through the Wizards of the Coast office window in Minecraft, because I would never do that.
See, I get arrested for standing outside their building with a sign that says, "You're just recreating GURPS."
Well, you would distract them while I ran in and slapped like non-remove, like crazy glue backed stickers with Gary's face on everything. But no, they dropped this thing recently where it was like something that had Bigby in it. Now, Bigby is one of Gary's characters, not like an NPC. That was a character that Gary ran. And they're like, oh, well, he's a gnome. He's a jolly gnome. And he's called Bigby because, see, he's tiny. Get it? Big and tiny. And I'm like, you douchebags. No, that's like saying we're reintroducing Spider-Man. Oh, cool. He has 8 legs because he's a spider. Get it? Hold up. So that is why I hate the idea of them revisiting it. And I tell people who love Greyhawk are like, man, I really wish Wizards would go back to Greyhawk. No, you don't. You spit those words out of your mouth in the sink and you brush your teeth. You don't wish that.
It depends on which Greyhawk they grew up on, right? I mean, when they did the City of Greyhawk box set and all in that time period, it was a lot more dynamic than what Gary originally created, because Gary was building a skeleton so inventive DMs could fill it out, whereas they are building a specific setting for DMs to use. So I could see them going, yeah, I'd like to see it revisited, and they'd probably be happy with the result. Maybe not. I mean, depends, right? The different moods of the company at the time that a product is revisited can change the way the product turns out. And so they might not be happy, but they might be.
Yeah. I just, I mean, Doomsword, I think, says it's basic. It says it right. It's WG7 all over again. I mean, WG7 was clearly meant as a slap at Gary as he just left the company. McDougal, first of all, if you've been on the chat before and I haven't seen you, welcome. You seem like a new face, but he said they believe they have the power of the fans of the hobby. When they don't, we can easily just now buy their subpar products. Yep. You're absolutely right. You know, it's like the old Simpsons bit. Back when the Simpsons was good, just don't look. Just don't look. I understand it. But if nobody yells, if there's no old man yelling at the clouds, then what's the point of having YouTube? So, Vaughn has activated.
Can I answer first?
Yes, as you
mine will be shorter than yours, I promised. Vaughn, it's not. It's not. They're all worlds built by the company so that people have somewhere to start, and afterward you should move on and find other things to do. But Bill's going to give you a much longer, much better answer.
I hope so. Well, I mean, I hope it's better, but okay. So, stylistically, now you guys better take your shoes off or your socks are going to get blown right through them when I say this. But stylistically, I don't think Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance are bad. The problem comes with the canonicity of things and the way they were presented to dungeon masters. Modules and source books saying, if X happens, have Elminster show up and save the party. The Dragonlance modules, make sure all the characters are alive at the end of the module because this, and this has to happen. And I just, this coterie of super powerful NPCs stepping in front of the players, it's like, oh, and then Elminster does this, and then Elminster does that, and then he looks at you adventurers and says, well, what do you wish to do? There's this short-lived British comedy that was really great called That Mitchell and Webb Look, and one of the funniest skits they had on was the BMX Bandit and the Angel Summoner, and it was like a crime-busting duo, and one of them was a kid on a BMX bike, very exciting, very 80s. And his sidekick was one of the heavenly host, was an actual angel. And all of their solve the problem of the week in the little skits that they would do, this fictional TV show. But all the problems of the week would come down to, right, that's where they're selling the drugs from, in this warehouse. So what I'll do is I'll ride my bike down that ramp, and then I'll skid, and it'll kick dust up in the bad guy's eyes. And while they're trying to rub the dust out of their eyes, you jump down and grab their guns and run in the office and lock the door, and you can call the police, and then we'll stop them. And then the guy playing the angel will go, or I could summon the heavenly host and put an end to it like this, and there'd be like bright light shine down, and you'd hear this choral scream go up, and they'd pan over to where the bad guys are, and they're just like piles of ash and clothes. And that was how everyone ended. Like young kid comes up with cool BMX plan, angel just goes, and makes it go away. And that was what was driving the design. Plus, those campaign settings came in at a time when TSR was appealing to the blue-haired church ladies. If you go dig this up, and you can find it on the interwebs, and I've shared it with you guys before, but if you go dig this up, there was a standards and practices document that came out for second edition D&D. And it was like, the bad guys can never win. There can't be an avenue for the bad guys to win in your modules, because heroic fantasy. And that when the novels based on the modules started to sell like hotcakes, the powers that be at TSR came to the module writers and said, here are the novels, write the modules so they're like this. Yeah, but these have main characters and scenes, and Drizzt is the hero in these. We don't care. If you want to keep writing modules for us, make them match the novels. And they got their marching.
It sounds like the audience is with me, though, right? So we have talked about putting Nordalia out there as a product. Halibard has. And you've been in those conversations where we're like, yeah, we could, we couldn't, would we, wouldn't we? If we ever do, I fully expect and will strongly encourage people to buy Nordalia and rip the stuff they like out and throw the rest in the trash. Because frankly, that's what these settings are for. It's every one of them. I've got all of the Greyhawk Adventures. I've even got the Eberron book, and I mock that one mercilessly. And honestly, all of these, I read them cover to cover because I want ideas. And they've all got good ideas in them somewhere.
All right. Guys, first of all, I don't disagree with you, Don, but I do have to step away. Don, would you take it away?
All right.
I'll be right back as Don gets me demonetized.
I'll try not to do that, although he can't hear me. So, I mean, Bill really thoroughly answered that question, and he really feels strongly about it. And some of those do railroads, but again, even the modules I hated had good ideas in them, and certainly source books for entire worlds absolutely do. I've got the Harn books, and oh my goodness, if you want to talk about detail, Harn is where it's at. I would never run a campaign in Harn because you'd never have everything right, but I certainly pull ideas out of it every once in a while. So, Shadow, I don't know if I can actually post these. I can't. Okay, well, I'll just pick it up there from your comment then. I actually like epic campaigns where the result could be world-shattering, and usually, not always, but about 3 out of 5 times, our annual get-togethers, which we call tourneys, we actually go for the epic, the world could be permanently changed, and it is in those adventures. And that's, these are the core people that I've played with off and on over decades. The faces change sometimes because people move in, people move out, but when we get together for our annual get-together, the people invited are hardcore, and they know the world, they like the world, and they want to save it. So it's fun to have those pretty regularly, every couple of years at least. Embarrassing Bill stories. Oh, I have a few of those. He called me one time. Wow, I don't know. Can I say this? He called me one time completely upset and apologized for not delivering to me. We've had off and on working relationships. When I have work that suits Bill, I call him. Oh, got to quick finish this. Anyway, he called me one time, said he was sorry for not delivering, but I had what he was talking about in front of me before he called me. Hi, Bill.
Hello.
Nothing embarrassing, promise.
Nothing embarrassing. James Seymour, I see you, James Seymour. But no, so just to go back, and those of you who are agreeing with Don, I know where you live. But no, I guess that was that's it. I mean, that's my argument about it, was that adventures stopped being adventuresome and adventures became color by number books that went along with the settings, or that went along with the novels, and consequently that crept into the settings where you had Uncle Elminster leads the party on an adventure, and the worlds became so built up with so many layers of lore strata that a dungeon master who could come in with, the Greyhawk folio or the Greyhawk box set and comfortably drop a town anywhere. It's like, I want the town of Cherrywood. I want the town of Cherrywood here, because the party is going from Verbabonk to Divers, and that's along the way. Whereas in Forgotten Realms, it's like, you can't do that. That's an orc area. Chief Snaggletooth of the Bloody Hand tribe 300 years ago fought the elves of the Grey River, and they agreed that this area would remain in the hands of the orc as part of their back in the times of turbulence, and Elminster oversaw that. And and I'm just like, I just needed a place for them to buy feed for their horses. So fundamentally,
but you think about the things that if you ignore that and you take these books as source material, we got, whether you like them or not, Dragonborn, the 5th Ed Dragonborn are a descendant of what they introduced in Dragonlance, right? I mean, you get a whole lot of stuff like that. After all, the world wouldn't live without Kender, because I know you love those. So, I mean, right? We got good ideas out of these books. We got some bad ones too.
I'll mail you poop in a box, Don. Anyway, no, please continue, though. All kidding aside, please continue.
Well, I'm just saying, right? That's why I said I hope that if we ever put Nordalia out, people will rip out the pieces they like and laugh at the pieces they don't, or throw them away, because that's what I do. I mean, these books are nothing but source material for my brain to cogitate on. I honestly, I've run Greyhawk. I played in Dragonlance. And for boxed worlds, I think those are the only ones I've actually played. All the rest I've read.
Yeah. No, I get it. I had an interesting conversation with a really good friend of mine late last night, and we were talking about dungeon design, and basically the topic of it was, why have stuff that your characters are never going to see or interact with. And I thought about this. I thought about this in 3D graphics. As most higher end computer games use 3D graphics, there's a methodology called face culling. Has nothing to do with a person's face, but basically, if a vertex is presented, we don't. You see a triangle from straight on, just one flat face. We don't care about the other two sides until we move around there. And when we move around there, that first flat face, we don't care about that one. And computers are fast enough that they can drop those and save resources. Just throw them out. And you can see this if you've ever played, any of you in the audience have ever played an Elder Scrolls or a Fallout 3D game. If you're in a town and you turn on like the cheat to walk through the air and walk through walls, instead of taking the exit out of the town, nothing in the outside world is rendered. The tree that's right by the city gate, if it's there, it's an ugly primitive, because you can kind of see it from the second story of a building inside the town. And that's kind of what that is if it's not important to the players, don't put it in there. Don't waste your CPU cycles worrying about, why this, why that. I mean, a decade ago, when I kicked off my current ongoing Greyhawk campaign, Alan Grohe, who is a very sharp guy when it comes to matters Greyhawk, and just a good guy in general, Alan, I would send him messages, like private messages, like, I'm going to have this come up with the characters here in a few minutes. Is that who's the, I looked at the Greyhawk book. Who's the, the Susanade or the Sultan over here? And he's like, I don't know. Make something up. And after a few times that, I was like, oh, right. Of course. You can Google like, Gary lists like 30 demon princes and princesses in Monster Manual 2. He stats out maybe 5 of them.
Yep.
Make the rest up.
I'm going to take your allegory there and just kind of turn it on you. Do you know why face culling exists in graphics? Because you're making a 2D image. I want a 3D world. So I do a lot of stuff in the world, in the background. If players are moving along and they get a adventure hook and they choose not to follow it, there are ramifications to that, and they happen in the background while the players don't even see it. But it changes the world, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse.
Well, and I mean, yes, having a living, breathing world where things go on outside of the player's control and outside of their consideration, or as a result of their intervention, or not as a result of their intervention, those are very cool things. It's but that's your lore. That's the things you're putting in. I think for a new DM to come in and say, I want to try some of that Forgotten Realms out. Give me some of that Forgotten Realms. And you're like, okay, go to Drive Through RPG and type in Forgotten Realms and take out a small loan.
Well, so I think the prototype of that, and we were talking about it, I think while you were gone, maybe you were here, is Harm. I mean,
that was when I was gone.
No one in the world uses everything there is about Harn because they produced so much in-depth material for every single region, right? I mean, it's massive. As a matter of fact, my favorite comparison is the city-state stuff, the original city-state stuff, and the original Harn stuff. These show the extremes of world building.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And good night, Road March. Have a lovely evening. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening.
So someone was asking while you were gone about embarrassing stories. I promise I didn't tell them any.
Okay. I honestly don't know. I think the most embarrassing story that I can think of, unless I don't know. I don't know if this is embarrassing or pathetic. There was a brief period of time in 2005 when I had the worst job I have ever had. Like my dad was still alive at this point, and if my dad had called me up one day and said, "I'm running a job out on such and such site, and I need a guy out there. I need you to sweep. I need you to carry drywall, and I need you to carry studs. Do you want to do that?" I would have been like, "Yeah, fuck it, let's go." And I hate drywall. Like, if for people who know me personally, like, and have known me for 30, 40 years, I hate drywall and construction. I loathe it. And I would have, boom, let's go. I'll be there, because I worked for Remax of Florida. Well, no, let me back up. I didn't work for Remax of Florida. I worked for a company called K2 Systems that was contracted.
Go ahead, sir.
That was contracted by Remax of Florida to make a new website for them. Now, you tell me, Don, does that sound like an IT job or does that sound like a real estate job? So you may be starting to remember this, but I was so miserable. I had just done an article for Information Week, and they paid me several thousands of dollars for it because it was a big article. And I was so miserable at that job that I called Don up when I got home from a realtors conference. We had to be at a realtors conference and chat up realtors about this wonderful new system. And I got home from the first day of that conference and I called Don, and it was zero dark there. It was, fortunately, Don is as much of a night owl as I am. And I said, "Look, if you will hire me full time right now, full time to write for you, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, all I'm doing is writing for, I'm not sure what company you had at that time. I will, 05.
Probably still working for CNP, so network computing.
Yeah. But I said, I will get on an airplane tomorrow. I will call in sick. I will say, "Look, I woke up this morning. I can't go to the second day of the conference. I've got a fever." I will get on an airplane and I will bring you my pay, cash money, and I will put it in your hand. I will pay a bounty for a job. Obviously, you did not have an employment spot for me. So that's kind of embarrassing for me anyway, that I had been reduced to that.
I was trying to cram in. You came into the room halfway through, so I was trying to cram in before you got back the orange contract where you called me for the one piece and said, "Well, I'm sorry, I haven't gotten that to you," and I'm reading it while we're talking because you'd already sent it to me and forgot.
Yeah. That was pretty funny. I was like, "I haven't sent that. I'm so sorry." And you're like, "I have it. I'm reading it right now, you dingbat."
If you're going to be wrong, it's better to be wrong that way than thinking you didn't send it and having sent it and being late.
What was it? The last set of white papers I did almost exactly a year ago, that like blew your client away, and I sent you like the unsanitized documents.
Yep.
Don had sent me these white papers that had like the data had to slot into specific fields, and I used the very first one he sent me and select all, Control X, and then would just started putting in fields, and there were fields that didn't apply to other clients. So when I was putting data in, I was leaving the unsanitized data for clients
Yep.
in there. And like within 5 minutes, Don calls me up and says, do you want to do this professionally? Because you're really freaking good at it. He didn't say freaking. And Don doesn't curse that often, I can tell you that much. So when he dropped an F-bomb in our conversation, I knew I'd done something good. And I was like, hell yeah. So we started working on that. And then like 5 minutes later, he's like, we have a problem. you sent me the white papers unsanitized, you nitwit. So I like it was 5 minutes of select all, delete, select all, delete, select all, delete, save, select all, just going through. But it was one of those things I guess you guys might have had to be there for, but
it was great work. I mean, it's just I noticed that they all had the same value in that one field that wasn't really relevant, right?
yeah, because I wrote those during a hurricane. Like when hurricanes come, like I freak out and I don't sleep. I can't.
I remember that because you were like, "I'm just going to do this tonight."
And, well, I was going to finish it that night. I had some, but I was like, I'm driving all night basically, and I did it. And I think by like 4 o'clock in the morning, my brain was just like not thinking. You need to go through and sanitize all the fields before you send this. So that's kind of funny. This is less of a funny, or this is less of an embarrassing, have anything to do with Don or I, but in retrospect, this is kind of funny. Don once gave me 5 laptops all at once while I was in Wisconsin, so I had to get them home. So I
thought it was funny.
You thought it was funny because you kept saying, Bell, I've got a bunch of performance laptops I'm going to give you. Cool. Let's arrange shipping. And he'd get crickets from me. A few months would go by. Bill, I got a bunch of performance laptops I want to give you. Cool. All right, let's get shipping going. Crickets from me. Finally, I went to Lake Geneva Gaming Convention. And Don, literally, like the first time I saw him at the con, walks up and sets this massive Cisco backpack full with 5 laptops crammed into it. So I had to figure out how to get those home. And I put like one of them in Colleen's laptop bag. So there were 2 laptops in there and then a couple in the luggage. Now, here's the funny part. Don had installed Linux on all of these. I didn't have any admin logins for any of these. TSA had said, why has this guy got 5 laptops and why is he acting real nervous? I get nervous around cops, TSA, everything. Sir, can you switch one of these on for me? Sure. Sir, what's on this laptop? Oh, it would have been like the scene at a Midnight Express when they had Billy Hayes up against the wall, with a laptop falling out from under my shirt. They didn't look twice at me. They literally one laptop in each tracer, and we're slamming the things down the rollers, and I'm like chasing after them, trying to put my feet on. I look around, where's Colleen? My wife was on the other side of that row of people. Colleen had our toiletries in a plastic bag that was 4 ounces too big. She had a 12-ounce plastic bag instead of an 8-ounce plastic bag. And they pulled my 4-month pregnant wife aside for an enhanced pat down and an enhanced questioning.
That's right. Those 4 ounces of air were dangerous, man.
could have taken out the whole plane with those in Minecraft.
So somebody asked if I had any D&D gems. I might have some history lurking around here somewhere if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, Don's got some cool stuff up there.
Well, the trolls just made me a good one, which is Castle Zagig, because they're going to change the product number on it before they reprint it.
Yeah,
So,
I actually still that is the one thing, because when I started on Gary's it's up there. When I started on Gary's projects, somebody at TLG sent me like piles of old school. Not old school. I was looking at somebody's comment. Somebody at TLG sent me piles of like the Yigsberg book, Gary Gygax's World Builders, all three of those, and a bunch of other stuff that I've sold off, but I kept my Yigsberg books. So yeah, I've got one too.
Living Fantasy, Canting Crew, Insidiae, there's another one, but the ones Gary published through TLG, I've got those. There's like 5 of them. I've got several signatures. So like my Castle Zagig is signed by Gary.
Nice.
And just to make the perfect world where everyone hates me, my my original 3.0 PH is signed by Gary and Dave.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. When I first met,
it's like the old school players hate me because it's in a 3rd ed player's handbook, and the newer gamers hate me because it's Gary and Dave.
When I first met Gary face to face at Milwaukee Game Fest in 2004, it was me, Gary, and Rob Kuntz sitting just at this gaming table area, and Milwaukee Game Fest got the same space that Gen Con had been held in when it was held in Milwaukee, but it was about the size of Lake Geneva Gaming Convention, so there was plenty of free space to sit, and I'm just sitting there chit chatting with Gary and Rob, and a young man come over and he asked, well, he was probably about my age at the time, but he come over and he said, "Can I get your autograph, Mr. Guy?" He said, "Oh, sure." And it was like the 3rd edition complete book of elves or something. And Gary said, "Oh, I don't think my name's in this one." And he said, "I know, I just wanted your autograph on something." And I just went over and grabbed this and, bought this. And Gary was very good natured about it and that sort of thing. So, I met a guy at Gary Con last year, and he had like some beat to death copy of Manual of the Plains, or no, it was a 2E book. It was like a 2E, monstrous manual, like a hardback monstrous manual that was just clapped out. It looked like it had been run over by a car, but he had everybody's autograph in it. And his reasoning, and I have to admit, it was pretty brilliant. His reasoning was, it looks like shit. Who's going to steal it?
Yeah, true.
So go on with your goodies.
I've got the OCE printing of the white box. I've got the wooden box re-release that they did in the 3rd ed years or 4th ed years. The wooden, it's the white box in a box.
Yep. Right there. 2014 was when that dropped for the 40th anniversary.
The castle up above behind me is actually the limited edition one they sent to stores that you couldn't buy anywhere. My players and our FLGS owners got together and gave me that for Christmas one year. So that's kind of cool, I think.
That's awesome.
Pretty much, I got a lot of crap. All of the reprints that they did, the fall leather looking reprints, I've got all of those, a copy in shrink wrap and a copy open.
Nice.
Well, I guess for first aid crowd, there's a first aid person or two here. Huh? I've got the DMG with the replaced pages, where they had the monster manual in, and they recalled them and replaced the pages. I've got one of those. And I've got
way! Oh wow! Is that to hand?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I've only ever seen one of these. A kid I played D&D with, he was like a senior in high school when I was just starting like middle school. Mark what was Mark's last name? I don't remember, but Mark had gotten his when the AD&D books had released, and he just used it. Like, he didn't send it back to TSR. He just used it. And when I saw it, like in 1980, it was falling apart. He had used it so much. So I imagine nowadays it's completely gone. But let's see the pages.
Oh no, they're replaced. One of the ones they rebound.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a stack of pages that are offset, and it's the exact page numbers that they rebound.
Okay. All right. Because the guy that I knew when I was in middle school, he was in high school. Mark had one that had gotten out, and actually had the flipped. Was it QR and S or PQ and R section of the monster manual pages stuck in the middle, and
I've got the deities and demigods with everybody in it.
Right, the unexpurgated one. You got to love that.
Yep.
I was raving about this on Twitter the other day because just like nobody should buy old D&D on eBay. Just go get stuff on drive-through. But yeah, there was a copy of B2 on eBay that looked like your copy of B2 and my first copy of B2 and everybody's first copy of B2 looked like by the time it was time to retire it. And this thing, it was like rare, out of print, $200. I was just like,
rare, out of print, because it's POD, and I just got the oldie copy from that print run.
yeah, no kidding.
And, I also have the, I think it's second printing, might be third printing of the CNC players handbooks with the troll signatures in them. And actually, Steve signed Lori's with she gets a free, I forget what it was, free res. I think that when her character dies, it automatically springs back to life, and I can't challenge it because the rule author said it.
That's funny.
Years later, she actually used it.
Kabuki's got a dragon number 1.
Nice.
That's pretty cool. I think the oldest dragon I have, and it's pretty special. I like it. First of all, it's crispy minty. It is Dragon 22. And trivia question, Don, do you know what is special about Dragon Magazine 22?
You have a copy?
Aside from that.
No idea, actually. Dragon was not my forte. I abused the ones I had, but I didn't go out and collect them.
That's disgusting. Don't ever share that with us again.
So I have a friend. Have you met Mitch? I don't think you've met Mitch.
No.
I have a friend that collected every single one. He's got them from number 1 until 3 something, I think. It's crazy. I mean, he's got boxes of them, and he's a collector. But me, no, the ones I had, I abused until they fell apart, and read. But I didn't go out specifically to buy dragons.
At the time, I didn't either. I love having the 250 issues on CD-ROM. And for those of you who don't have that storied gem, once again, they are out of print. They're not offered by Wizards of the Coast. They will never be offered by Wizards of the Coast. You can find them in PDF. But anyway, Dragon Magazine 22 is special. Well, it was still the Dragon at the time, but it is special because it was released months before the Dungeon Master's Guide was released. And it entails all of the essential tables you need to run AD&D.
Wow.
The Monster Manual, the Player's Handbook, and the Dungeon Master's Guide were staggered over the space of 2 years. So people who picked up the Monster Manual and were hyped about playing this new advanced D&D and then got a Player's Handbook and holy crap, now we can make characters, couldn't run it. So you were stuck waiting or running it with OD&D. So when issue of the Dragon 22 dropped, months before the release, then you could then actually run, at least combat wise, you could run AD&D. Dragon 22 was AD&D before AD&D. Exactly so. And they had like 3 copies at a local used bookstore that were in fine condition, and I picked one up. He kind of knew what he had. He priced it, I think, at like $25. So I was feeling selfish. So I treated myself that day.
I told you about my used gold mine, didn't
I? You may have, but I have forgotten.
We shopped at a comic book store because they occasionally had D&D books in there, and went in there one day and they had a box of used modules, and we're like, $5 each. And I'm flipping through there, and Doc's Isle was in there.
Oh, wow.
And it was $5. And it was in pretty close to mint condition.
Yeah, my gold mine unfortunately played out, and the lady who ran it, she retired. But when she found out that I liked role-playing game stuff, she would just always make sure that I knew I had it. I knew I could get a look at it. Like, somebody might bring in some stuff and she'd say, "Oh, here, check this out." And I got a few odds and ends, rare stuff that I've sold since over the years there. But I went in one day and I'm walking down. I'm like, "Oh, there's a Dungeon Master's Guide and a Monster Manual and a Player's Handbook. That's cool." And I'm getting closer and I'm like, "Wait a minute." And finally I get close enough, and it was all true first prints in superb condition. And she had lightly written in pencil on the inside cover, $5 each. And so I go up there. I'm like, the boss lady was not there. It was, some rando she had working there. And I'm literally having this in my head. I'm like, just pay for the stuff and get to the car. Don't gush about how rare these are. Just pay for the stuff and get to the car. And so he's like, do you have store credit? And I was like, maybe. And so he pulls my 3x5 card out of the box. He's like, "Yeah, you've got just enough. You can get half off on each of these."
Oh, jeez.
So for $7.50, I got a true first print Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, and Player's Handbook in mint condition.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I did not blurt out, "Wow, do you know what you have here?" Now, I had always made myself a promise that if I went in, like,
I can anger the crowd and say at our tourney this year, friend of mine that has been playing forever and is a wild-eyed fan of the Q1, Q2, Q3. I gave him a copy of Queen of the Demon Web Pits because he'd been looking for one forever and couldn't find it, and I had 2. So I'm just
that's nice. That's nice. My mindset with Linda's bookstore was, if I ever went in there and she had like a wood grain set or Detroit Metro Games Lost Soj Conf, something that was literally like, at that time in the early 2000s, thousands and thousands of dollars, that I would explain to her, "Look, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to flip this. This is worth more than you have it for. And I'm going to bring you a portion of this back." And I absolutely would have done it, because she was a nice lady. The guy who currently has a used bookstore here in town that has repeatedly kept a urine-stained copy of Stormbringer, softback, Chaosium Stormbringer rulebook on his shelf, despite me coming in one day and saying, "Hey, I know you don't want people opening the shrink wrap. Can you open the Stormbringer?" Absolutely. Opens it up, and I flip it open, and there's like crystallized animal pee in the thing. Geez. And I tell him, I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh my gosh, wow, I didn't even, okay, yeah, that's not." And I was up there again one day, and the fucking thing was on the shelf. That guy, I go in there and get a copy of Lost Sojourn or a wood grain set. Wow, that's neat. Cool. I like old D&D books. $25? Sure. Bye.
I think those days are gone, my man.
Yeah. Because this guy, like, when he does get first ed stuff in, he prices it to what he sees on eBay.
Yep. That's what they're all doing now.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, you get one that prices it for what was sold on eBay, not what people are asking on eBay.
Yeah. But no, you won't believe what I found in a used bookstore days for D&D, I think, are gone. Now, Vaughn, you mentioned something interesting here. Tomb of Horrors from Origins 1. Anybody can have that for $70. And what I mean by that is if you get Art and Arcana, a visual history, there is a folio copy included in there. Wait,
are you kidding?
No. Of course, yours won't have Tracy Lesch's autograph in it, but then, some of us lucky folks have that.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness, you're right.
You didn't know that?
No, I did not know that. I've been through this book, and I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Bill.
Oh, you're quite welcome. That's got the original artwork by Tracy Lesch in it. Guys, if you don't have Art and Arcana, it has Dungeons and Dragons gameable stuff in it. So pick that up. And it comes with a folio copy of the Tomb of Ra-Hotep, which is the module that Gary was inspired to create Tomb of Horrors by. So yeah, get the deluxe version. It usually pops up on sale for 30% off on Amazon. So you're paying $60 for a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous book that comes with a mini poster and that folio copy of Tomb of Horrors and a folio copy of the Tomb of Ra-Hotep. So
the other ones I've got are SPI's Sword and Sorcery bookcase game,
right
which
on.
often is cited as an inspiration for hex based in D&D. That's about it. Most of the Rollmaster stuff from the very first print.
Right on. Do you have? I don't know if I've ever asked you this. Do you have a copy of Lonely Mountain?
Doesn't sound familiar, no.
That I'm actually looking at my copy now. That is a Iron Crown when they were big into Rollmaster, or when they were big into MERP rather, released a board game that it absolutely out Dungeons Dungeon in terms of both complexity. Like, you literally have to run multiple adventuring parties. Every player, like, I'm going to play the freebooters. I'm going to play the men. I'm going to play the elves. I'm going to be the dwarves. I'm going to be the hobbits, and I'm going to be the orcs. You have like a dozen character cards, and the maximum number of characters I think you can have in a party is 6. So you are at a minimum running 2 parties of adventurers in Lonely Mountain. It is a wickedly complex game, but it can be fun. It is one of those, like, this is Saturday. We're starting after breakfast and we'll be done a little before supper kind of things. Oh, Paint Minis Live. Thank you for the super. Thank you so much. Welcome. Everyone subscribe to Paint Minis Live channel, please. Does Dawn have any favorite minis?
Oh boy. Do you know? I'm really curious. Paint Minis Live. Do you know what a loaded question that is?
We're going to be here for a while. I'm glad I'm suffering from insomnia. So
I have several thousand miniatures from multiple genres. My favorite, the new Hill Giant
from the Delver's Dungeon here. You got a Hill Giant?
The new Hill Giant from Oh, Reaper. Oh my goodness, is that thing cool? It really is. It's easy to paint. It's a gorgeous miniature. He's got a backpack that's like netted together to hold it all in place. I really like it. I had a custom one made for my wife of her favorite character. I can grab that one. It's right here if anybody's interested.
Yeah, heck yeah. While he's doing that, I'm gonna grab the Lonely Mountain just to show the cover real quick.
So this is. Can I get that in there? Oh. There we go. That's the Lady Ariel Bright Band. And that was made, it was sculpted by Black Crab Sculpting in New Zealand for us. We've got the only 3 copies of it, 1 painted, 1 not painted, and 1 master.
Nice. Anyway, guys, that is Lonely Mountain from Iron Crown.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
I really like a lot of stuff Reaper's been doing lately. I don't know if you've seen it. Like I say, the Hill Giant is great. I got a bunch of them for Christmas from my sister-in-law and brother-in-law. The skeletons are cool. I wish they did more in a box. I mean, there's like 2 in a thing. The original 18-figure Grenadier Adventurers box, that's always going to be my favorite. I'm sorry. I painted those when I was 13. I painted them when I was 20. I've painted them about 4 times since. Now I don't have the box. I probably should get a new one. And I have the Grenadier Circle of Dragons. I don't have them all, sadly. I was trying, I like every other kid my age, was trying to get all 12 of them so you could send in the tabs and get the 13th one.
A guy in our Monday night game was slimming down his collection, and he actually gave me a couple of those. And he had done that. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's a little cut taken out of the box.
The half circle tab, yeah.
Yeah. So he gave me the brass dragon, and Grenadier didn't dare call it that, even though Tiamat is a Sumerian word for a devil woman, and there's no way TSR could copyright that. So they called it a spirit dragon, but so it's basically their post. We're the miniatures company for TSR, Tiamat, and a brass dragon that he sent me, and they both have the UPC thing cut out of it, the half circle. So,
all right, so I'm going to sneak to your house, Shivya, and steal Tiamat, because that's the one you get by sending the half circles in.
Oh, no way! I didn't know that. Wow. Okay.
I've got 5 of the base ones, and I didn't get them all, so I never got the chance to get Tiamat. So that's cool. I'm glad you got it.
And I mean, like I said, marked, it was just like, hey, yeah, you can have these. So Spectral Dragon is what it's called. And I will put this up on camera real quick. Hopefully this will, I don't know if you guys can see that very well.
We can see it, not terribly well, but good enough.
But yeah, that is the Dragon Lord Spectral Dragon. Now, I don't know if I can probably sit closer to the mic so you guys can hear me.
Spectral Dragon might not be the Tiamat one. They did a series 2 of those dragons, and it might be from that. That doesn't sound like the one that you got for sending in the tags.
Okay.
I'm going to grab a box quick. Be right back.
Because that box is missing a tab too, and if that was the one that you got, I don't know that it would. I don't know that it would necessarily be that it would necessarily be the giveaway if it's missing the tab. I got to look on the shelf of shame and see if I can grab her real quick while Dawn's away. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
All right. No bill.
What?
You there, Bill? Oh, you are.
Yes. I was grabbing Tiamat real quick.
The Dragon Lord was the name of the 13th one.
I got it. Hey, diversity, what's happening? Welcome. So this is the unpainted Tiamat, again, right off the shelf of shame. All that delicious lead. Good for you.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. Back when miniatures were miniatures and IQs were much lower because we were handling pure lead.
You're a good Doom Sword. I have a dresser of shame.
Yeah. Yeah, we all got shelves of shame. Now, I've mentioned this before, and Don, I think you're probably aware of this. If not, I'm telling you now. But there's a Mirliton is a miniature company out of Italy, and for those of you who see a lot of these classic minis, first of all, the old classic mini sculpts were not horrible. If you put a halfway decent paint job on them and not like paint them with that bristly Tester's paintbrush that came with the horrible enamel sports car paints that we all bought at Kmart and painted our miniatures with. But if you actually put some TLC into them, you can paint them up. But Mirliton, it's mirliton.it. Out of Italy, they have a bunch of the AD&D gold box line that they keep in print. So the Amazons, that is the box of female warrior miniatures, the Swamp Encounters, Orcs Lair, Wizards Laboratory. They have the vast majority of the Grenadier Gold Box minis that you can pick up sets of. They're pricey because you're shipping them from Europe, but if you have a penchant for the classic minis, you can still buy them. You can still buy them.
I think they've got some of the old Royal Partha casks too.
Yeah, I had
a lot of Grenadier.
Yeah, I had not. But
so paint minis. Thank you for the offer, but I actually enjoy painting, and I'm down to 400 fantasy miniatures, 300 or 400 Civil War, about the same for Revolutionary War, and I don't know, just a handful now of World War II, maybe 50 or 100 World War II minis. So I'm getting this pile down pretty steadily.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be done with your hundreds and hundreds of minis before I'll finish the maybe 150 minis that I have. I will die before my minis are all painted. I will be dead in the ground, and somebody will be like, why has Grandpa got all these little weird dolls? I don't know. Just put them in the trash bags with the books and set it on the curb is how that's going to go.
I've got I do about an hour and a half to 2 hours a night. Tonight I'm skipping it because I'm here with you, but I was going to do this from the painting area, but frankly, the lighting in there is terrible, and the camera on that computer isn't as nice as the camera on this one. So,
and if I'm being completely honest with you, Don, in your painting area, you always look like someone's last known photo.
Those are the lovely. We had to introduce this, even though we knew LEDs were coming. CFL bulbs lighting my face.
Well, it's more the rough basement look of the painting area that I was referring to. But yeah, no, the lighting. I tell you what, I've kind of got the mellow lights on tonight. Although I've got a lamp I need to go turn off before I go blind from it. But I fought with lighting in this office for months. honestly, if you just went through and did a supercut of me bitching about lighting in here, you could make a 2-hour video just out of that.
James, sorry to interrupt. James Seymour is right. I was misinforming people. Iron Wind has Ralph Arthur. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, no, that's okay. That's okay. I missed it completely. But no, I've struggled to get decent lighting in here, and I finally got a good lighting setup for general streaming. Tonight was literally just like I can't run Gamma World tonight and be intense and focused on the players and the audience, knowing that my wife is in complete agony. So once I knew that she was going to be able to lie somewhat, at an angle, and almost maybe hopefully get to sleep, I was screw it. I'm going to, hang out here. But I've got, don't worry, friends at home, fans of Mrs. the Dungeon Delver, I have the family chat open. If she needs me, she knows to message me, and then I will depart. And
And before we started, I told Bill if he has to step away, then I'll entertain you guys. So
yep.
If nothing else, you'll get funny faces from me while he's out.
Did you do the juggling? Did you juggle for them?
I didn't yet, but if you go again, I might have to.
That's fine. Only painted minis. Only juggle painted minis.
Oh.
So
the other minis, I don't know if we were restricted to fantasy. The other favorites of mine are my Chinese nationalists. I had to go all over the world and pick and choose here and there to find the figures, but oh my goodness, I got Chinese in Nazi helmets with blue uniforms. It's astounding. Yeah.
That was a strange. I mean, everybody talks about, World War II started in 1939. No. Try like almost a decade before then. Don't tell the Chinese that World War II started in 1939. No, like, oh, you mean when we've been fighting for 6 years?
McDougal, I can show you my favorite wizard mini. Of course, Nordalia has the wizard that everybody refers to and everybody loves to hate. He's dead now, but
yes, the Thunderbolt Mountain, Mountain Wizard mini.
As a matter of fact, believe it or not, all the players that complained about him nonstop are now launching a campaign to bring him back.
I got to tell you, none of my group is here, and none of them watch my streams. I'll tell you straight up, I have them absolutely convinced that Robilar in our Greyhawk campaign is this evil Svengali who's responsible for their every misfortune, and I literally introduced him just to be kind of an obnoxious background player. I rolled a random street encounter with one of the characters being attacked by rakes in the city of Greyhawk.
Yeah.
And I said, wouldn't it be funny if Robilar showed up here? Let's do that. And James, the player, was 100% convinced that Robilar set the whole thing up to get him to ingratiate himself to Robilar. He was 100%, and they're like, I can't wait till we finally have our showdown with him. And I'm just in the back of my head, I'm thinking, what showdown?
McDougal, I've got a little bit older wizard from Reaper that's just astounding. It's a woman sitting on a flying carpet casting a spell, and it comes with a stand for the carpet and the whole shot. It's really nice. I haven't painted it yet, but I keep looking at it going, that needs to be next on the table.
Yeah. Hey, you guys talking to Diversity and Dragons? Could you do @Diversity or something? It keeps popping up on my screen, and I think you're talking to me. James Seymour said, otherwise, I like this 7x57 Mauser. I'm like, did I tell you about any firearms I had? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But,
so my favorite is the 30 carbine, the M1, and not the Garand, the other one.
The M14.
No, the M1 carbine.
Oh, the M1 carbine. Yeah, if I could have, if I could afford to own, I just for the sheer, I'm gonna shoot through you, the person behind you, the person behind him, and then crack the engine block of the Jeep you showed up in. Power of the M14.
Makes sense.
You know, when you want to reach out and touch someone in South Carolina, you know, it's that good. I have to answer wave and mutilations because they are bromine lasers, and when they fire, there is a puff of gas as the cell expands and outgasses slightly, so it doesn't burst the firing mechanism.
I speak for all of us when I say I'm a little alarmed that you researched that.
Honestly, I have no idea, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. The things that I've researched that could alarm you, I can't talk about on YouTube. But we're all alarmed. Oh my gosh. So anyway, any questions you guys have for myself or for Don?
Hey, the other limited edition collector's items I have signed copies of everything put out by the people at Hellbard.
You can't argue with that. Do you have a signed copy of Temple of the Sun though?
Ooh.
I don't think
prototype, but I don't think it's signed. I'm gonna have to corner you at some point.
That's right. You may have to actually come to southern Wisconsin one of these springs, and we'll do that. If I can find one of the marksmanship clubs you can put in for Korean bought back Garans, yeah, that's just a. You know, it would hang on my wall. You know,
I was going to say, I collect World War II main battle rifles, and I've got a Garand, and it's not the one I go to shoot. That's where my M1 carbine is my favorite because I've shot them all, and frankly, I like the carbine best.
Yeah, I love what the late Dick Winters said when it looked like they were going to remobilize him for Korea. A guy who was in his unit, he was talking to him one day and he said, "Hey, I got something for you." And he brought him his Garand and he said, "Take this." He had kept his Garand when the Easy Company had been demobilized. And he said, "Well, I think they'll give me a rifle." And he said, No. The guy in the unit, and I don't remember who it was, you guys can look this up, had modified it to full burst. All 8 rounds, one pull of the trigger. And Winter said, "I don't know what he did to make it do that, or at least I don't remember it. And if I do remember it, I'm not telling anyone."
Yeah, makes sense. So I don't have Garand thumb, but I have had 1911 web, where the slide coming back grabs the webbing in your hand and pulls it. But it wasn't on a 1911; it was on a concealed carry 38. I actually had to switch guns because it kept biting me there no matter how I held it.
Vaughn asked the Gamma World question. We technically were supposed to play Gamma World yesterday because it's 1:30 in the morning now. But Vaughn asks, is a fusion rifle hit a death sentence? It's level 18 radiation. Very nearly, but understand Gamma World 1E is supposed to be an exceptionally lethal game. I know we kind of lull random when characters die and everything, and we've had characters like die, roll up new characters, die, roll up new characters on the same stream. You've all seen it happen. However, with an exceptionally high con or wearing a suit of armor that comes with any kind of an energy shield, it can mitigate. James Seymour asks, when is my Bama game? That is October 21st. I will be in Tuscaloosa watching Alabama romper stomp the good people of Arkansas. I mean, the entire state. Nick Saban is just going to turn them loose on the fans. So it will be the 21st. And Don, who used 7mm Mauser from the Berlin Arsenal?
I have no idea. My Mauser's 8mm, as is my other weapon that I don't talk about online that might use the same ammo but fire really fast.
Hypothetically, if such a weapon existed, it would use 8mm ammo and it would fire exceptionally. Right. But of course, such a weapon doesn't exist, and But anyway, Don, do you have anything else? Because man, I'm running out of steam. I really am.
No, I was just looking forward to talking with you again. So if you're running out, we're good.
Yeah, I mean it is morning, guys. It is like capital M morning. But I do want to take a hot minute and give sincere thanks, LHRPG, for your super, Wave of Mutilation for your 10 Australian. G'day. 5,000 Chilean pesos, which I think is Jorge said is about $5 or $6. I don't care, man. That's awesome. $2, $1, coming and watching the show. All right. I love you guys all the same. Uncle Brat swinging for the fences, $50 EDs. That's great. Vaughn, of course, with the question earlier, thank you so much. And PML for your 10 spot. I thank you all so very, very much. It does help out greatly. Yes, I went and saw the wife unit before a few minutes ago when she needed assistance getting in bed, and she said to say thank you to everyone for the well wishes, and hopefully she'll be feeling better. Don, thanks for hanging out with me, brother. I really appreciate it.
You bet, man. Always a joy. Do tell C that we're thinking of her. Tell her to get better.
I will, man. My best to Lori and the whole crew, all like 9 people that live in the house with you there.
There's just the one. Thank goodness.
Right on. All right. Well, y'all take care of yourselves. I'm gonna do this and just hog this whole screen and shut down the banner. Thank you all again. Thank you, Don, for your continued. That's okay. Say your good nights. And in the meantime, of course, we all know what the real danger is. So keep your eyes open for the owl bear. Love you all.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.